Hi everybody, this is Ryan Langford with Resound School of Music in Surrey, British Columbia, Canada. Thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to be giving you an introduction to the guitar. If you don't currently play the guitar but would like to, or if you've been playing for a little while but would like to brush up on some of the basics or need to brush up on some of the basics, then this video is for you. Now, as with any new pursuit that you undertake, a hobby or any new area of study, playing the guitar has its own vocabulary, its own new set of words that you need to learn. In order to communicate effectively with other guitar players and really to get the most out of your study, you need to become acquainted with these. So we're going to start by just discussing the vocabulary. I'll be showing you what the different words mean. And then we're going to be starting to read some guitar music called tab. And then by the end, be playing a couple of simple songs. Accompanying this video on our website, resoundschool.com, you'll find a couple of PDFs. Feel free to download those. They'll help you with this lesson. So let's get started. Now, if you're going to buy a guitar and you go to one of the large music stores like Guitar Center, for example, you'll walk in, you'll see hundreds, if not thousands of types of guitars, and it can be a bit overwhelming because they all look different. And you might wonder, well, which guitar should I get? Well, the good news is there's only two main types of guitars. You've got the acoustic guitar and the electric guitar. Now, if you, depending on the type of music that you like to listen to, one of these might be a better fit for you than the other. The acoustic guitar is typically used for more, acoustic rock, stuff like Dave Matthews Band and Jack Johnson, for example, or even more folksy kind of music. Whereas the electric guitar is often used for a little heavier types of music, stuff like often John Mayer plays a lot of sort of heavier electric, Jimi Hendrix, stuff that kind of rocks a lot, blues and rock and roll and all those kinds of those types of music. So depending on which you prefer, that might steer you towards one or the other. Now, for the acoustic guitar, you're looking at an instrument that can be played without being plugged in anywhere. So you can go to the beach or to a campfire or sitting at home on your couch or even in bed, although that's not the best method for playing. But all those different areas you can play your acoustic guitar and you don't need to bring along electricity or anything. It's by itself and it sounds nice by itself. The electric guitar needs to be plugged into one of these, which is an amplifier. It's basically a speaker for your guitar in order to get very much sound out of it. So once you've decided, okay, if you want to go acoustic or electric, then you can decide which type of acoustic or which type of electric would I like to get. The acoustic guitar, there's two main varieties of acoustic guitar. You have the steel string, which these things right here are called strings. These strings are made out of steel, or if they're brass, they've got a steel core in them. They tend to be very bright sounding, and it's probably the most popular in North America, but not so in other countries. And then we've got the nylon string guitar, which sounds a lot more soft, and it's used for classical music and other styles like flamenco. So again, depending on the style of music that you like, you would choose between one of these. Often for beginners, if they like the sound of the nylon string guitar, or if they don't mind it, I recommend going with that one because it tends to be a little bit easier to play, a little bit easier on your fingers to kind of get you started. So that's the acoustic guitar. On the electric guitar, we've also got two options. We've got the hollow body guitar, which is got a hollow body and can tend to have a little bit of an acoustic property in that you can hear it without plugging it in. But it doesn't tend to sound very good when it's not plugged in, and so we also still plug it into an amplifier. The hollow body is often used for more like blues and jazz style of music. And then we've got the solid body guitar. Now, this is a bass, but it looks very similar to a model called the Gibson SG. But basically, it's a solid piece of wood, typically, and you can't really hear it when it's not plugged in. So this tends to be used for more heavier rock styles of music. So those are your different guitar options. It would be helpful if you sat down and wrote a list and say, I really like this style of music. and kind of narrowed it down to see which of these would be a best fit. Then go into one of the music stores like Guitar Center and then help this, ask the salesman to help you. But then you're kind of armed with where to start. Now, once you've figured out the type of guitar you want, first whether you want acoustic, electric, or if you're going to get acoustic, whether you want the steel string or nylon, or for the electric, if you want to get a hollow body or a solid body, then there's a few other things to consider. First of all, you sit down with the guitar and you decide if you like how it sounds. There's lots of different sounds that you can get. Acoustic guitars, even though they all have a sort of a generally the same sound, there's a wide variety of different kind of subtleties that you can pick up when you're playing them by yourself. And so sit down, say, okay, if I want to go for a steel string acoustic, sit down and play 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different guitars and say, do they sound different to me and do I like how they sound? And you don't even have to know what you're playing. Play a couple notes and play the same note in several different guitars and say, do I like the way this sounds on one guitar or another? Now your ear might not be tuned yet to be able to figure out, be able to hear the difference in the sounds, and that's okay. But maybe it is, and so figure out which one you prefer. After you've sat down to see, okay, which, I found a guitar that I like how it sounds, you should consider how does it fit your body. You can get guitars in lots of different sizes. Acoustic guitars tend to be a little bit more standard, but there's still, you can get a 3/4 size guitar or a half size guitar if you're a smaller person. Or women often find the larger guitars a little bit just too big for them, and so try and find a guitar that fits your body as well. And for electric guitar, because it relies on amplification and not acoustic properties to make it sound, they can come in all sorts of weird and wonderful sizes, from being shaped like an axe to being shaped like a car I've seen. So you can kind of find what if something that fits you and that you kind of like the style of it. And finally, you should take into consideration how easy it is to play. As you're starting to play the guitar, if you get a guitar that's very difficult to play, it'll become discouraging quite quickly. So I always encourage my students to get a guitar that feels comfortable to play. And again, the nylon string guitar for acoustics tend to be a bit easier to play because they're lower tension. There's less pressure put on your hands when you're playing them. If you're going to go to electric, most electrics are fairly easy to play. The strings are thinner, so they're not as hard to play. But still, play around and see, does this hurt my fingers when I press it down, and so on. So after you've considered those three things, first of all, you've decided which, you want to go acoustic or electric, which sort of version of acoustic or electric you want to go with. You've looked at how does it sound, how does it fit your body, and how easy it is to play. You'll have narrowed down that number of guitars from thousands, probably down to just a few that are suitable for you, and a sales rep at one of the music stores can help you figure out the rest. Now that we've chosen the guitar that we'd like to play, let's talk about the guitar anatomy. Now, very much like our body has different parts, a guitar has different parts as well. And like we have a body, the guitar has a body. This area here is called the body of the guitar. And like a human body, the guitar has hips. These areas are called hips. And this area here is called shoulders. Your shoulder here and your shoulder here. On some guitars, we have something called a cutaway, which looks like one of the shoulders have been cut away from the guitar. And that's just to make it easier to reach these higher notes if you ever play up there. Then we have something called a bridge. This area here is called the bridge, which holds on to one side of the strings. We of course have the strings. We have this area here which is called the pick guard, which serves to protect your guitar against the pick if you're playing very hard. And then we've got this area right here. It's a big hole which we refer to as the sound hole, and it serves to let some of the air in and out to make the sound for the acoustic guitar. So that's the body of the guitar. Then we move on to the neck. This area here is called the neck of this guitar, this whole area, and like our neck has different parts. We've got these black areas here, this whole black area, this would be referred to as the fingerboard because that's where we put our fingers, or the fretboard because that's where the frets are. And the frets are, technically speaking, these metal bars that you'll see spaced out along the fretboard. Now, when we refer to our frets, like can you play fret number 1, what we're referring to is the space just before each fret. So this would be fret number 1, or first fret. This would be second. This would be third. This would be fourth. This would be fifth, and so on. You'll also notice on the fingerboard or fretboard, we've got little dots. Or on my electric guitar, I've got some rectangles. These don't mean anything in terms of your playing, but they're usually just decorative, or they kind of give you a visual cue as to where you might play next. If they're all spaces, sometimes it can get a bit confusing. So they're just kind of there as a help when you're playing. Then, at the very top of the guitar, we have something called the head of the guitar. The head is, I'll put this down. The head is where one end of the strings are, as well as where the tuners for the guitar are. So you'll see the tuners right here, and the tuners serve to produce different sounds on the guitar. When you tune it one way, it gives higher. When you turn it the other way, it goes lower. So that's the anatomy of the acoustic guitar. Now on the electric guitar, we've got a few differences. So instead of a sound hole, we've got what are essentially a microphone for each of the strings on the acoustic guitar, and these are called pickups. Now some guitars have one of these, some of them have 2, some of them have 3. I've got 2 in mine, and then we've got the controls for these microphones, which basically turns the volume up for each one of these. So this microphone, or pickup, we're going to refer to it. This pickup will be controlled by one knob. This pickup, the volume will be controlled by another knob, and then this knob here, and it varies by guitar, but this knob here would adjust the sound of each one of those pickups to make it sound a little warmer, a little bit colder, a little darker, a little lighter. And you've got an overall volume knob right here, which will turn the whole guitar up or down. And then you've got this little thing here, which is called the pickup selector. And it chooses which one of these we're going to be using because they have a slightly different sound. Okay, so that's the pickups on the guitar. This thing here is referred to as a tremolo, or sometimes as a whammy bar, depending on the guitar that you get. And it will give you that effect right there. So that's it for the anatomy of the guitar. I have attached below this video a PDF that you can download and look at as a reference in the future. Now, one of the things that you might have noticed that we didn't go into great detail when we were talking about the guitar anatomy is the strings themselves. Now, without the strings, we don't have a guitar. We've got a pretty looking box with wood and metal, but no sounds. The strings are what actually allow you to make sound on the guitar, so they're the most important part. So let's talk about the names of the strings. Each one of the 6 strings has its own name based on the note that it plays when it's tuned to the right sound. Now, remembering all 6 of the names of the strings can be a little bit daunting at first when you're just starting, so I use an acronym with my students that helps them remember. Most of them get it right away, and that is Eddie, 8, Dynamite, Good, Bye, Eddie. So that's Eddie, this string is E, 8, so this string is A, Dynamite, so this string is D, Good, so this string is G, Bye, so this string is B, and Eddie, so this string is E. Now you've probably noticed that there's 2 E's on here. One is a high sounding E, and one is a low sounding E. So I like to call this one Little Eddie, and this one Big Eddie. Now that we know the names of the strings, we're ready to start reading basic guitar music. We're going to use a type of guitar music called tab, or tablature, which is a relatively recent invention, but it's different from regular music in that regular music is a form of a language. It's like writing out a language, which has exactly the volume that you should play at and the speed that you should play at, and all these things. And tablature is more like a diagram. So we know that there's 6 strings in the guitar. In tab, there's also 6 lines. Each line represents one of the strings in the guitar. Now, you remember the acronym we used, Eddie, 8 Dynamite, Goodbye Eddie. You'll see we've got that here. Eddie, 8 Dynamite, Goodbye Eddie. And one of the things that you need to remember is which direction, which one of these lines represents the strings in the guitar. And a good way to remember is the lowest sounding string, which is this one, is the lowest line. And the highest sounding string is the highest line. So if we start here, this is Big E or Eddie, 8 Dynamite, good, G, bye, and then E. You'll see all of the strings. So now we know which line represents what string. We still need to know which fret do we play on the guitar, because we're not always going to play the strings open. Sometimes we're going to play them like here, for example, or in here, or up here. So we need to know which fret we can play. And so the way we do that is by writing a number on one of the strings. So I'm going to write a 0 up here. And then I'm going to play that. 0 means I'm not playing any of the frets, I'm just playing it open. So that's what that is right there. You see we've got little Eddie, so I'm playing the little E. It's the top line, so I'm playing the top sounding string, or the highest sounding string. Okay? And now I'm going to add a 3. Okay, and we would play that right here. Okay, you obviously wouldn't play it quite like this, you'd have it on your lap, but now I'm going to add in a 5. 5, I would count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I play that right here. Now I'm going to write in a few more notes. So now what we have is one of the most famous songs on the guitar called Smoke on the Water. We've got the beginning of that here. So we've got 0, 3, 5, 0, 3, 6, 5. So I'd encourage you to try that. And I've also got at the bottom of this video, a sheet called One String Guitar Riffs. And it's a really good way to get acquainted with the tablature system. And there's songs that you probably already know or somewhat familiar with. There's, I think, 8 of them on that sheet. And I would encourage you to try them out. Start at the top and go all the way through them, and that'll get you starting to read guitar music and playing your first few songs. Thanks for watching. You can find more videos on our site at resoundschool.com, as well as lots of resources for learning to play the guitar. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to give me an email at ryanl@resoundschool.com. Thanks very much.